Is crypto going to be the future of finance? Well, Don Jr. seems to think so.
CNBC host grilled Don Jr. on President Trump's meme coin and compared it to Hunter Biden's art sale. Let's watch.
That your father has creates the opportunity for foreign adversaries, people in the U.S., anybody, if they want, to effectively funnel money.
It's as bad as Hunter's art. It's as bad as Hunter's art or the Clinton Foundation with her getting back into the White House. It just seems like a way that greases the skids for influence.
So I think the meme coin, you don't know who's actually doing any of these things, right? So
that's one of the things that has people on
edge. But it's different because it's hard to influence if you don't actually know where the stuff's coming from, right?
Joe Kernan, host of CNBC's Squawk Box, confronted Don Jr. asking if it is okay for Trump to have a meme coin, and that was Don Jr.'s response.
We got into crypto not because it was like, hey, this is the next cool thing. We got into it out of necessity. We got into it because we understood just how quickly we could be turned off, even as an incredible developer from New York City. I mean, I don't think anyone would argue that we didn't change the skyline of New York City, but that disappeared in an instant. I mean, we're getting sued by New York State AG, $500 million fees for paying back loans on time with interest. These aren't, fair markets.
President Trump's meme coin has been heavily criticized by many ethics watchdogs. The New York Times published an article last week writing, quote, "The Trumps are hardly the first presidential family to profit from their time in power, but they have done more to monetize the presidency than anyone who's ever occupied the White House. The scale and the scope of the presidential mercantilism has been breathtaking."
Well, so says them.
I mean, in this interview, he took responsibility for every part of the crypto operation except for Trump's meme coin, which is really convenient. Public power serving personal profit is a big deal. And when we think about the people that could be investing, which is part of the conversation, that could be anybody from any country heavily into Trump's meme coin, yeah, it's anonymous, so we don't know who it is. But if somebody picks up the phone and says, hey, I put $2 million in your meme coin, do this for me, come over to the Middle East and do this for me. That is called quid pro quo in exchange for power. Like maybe he's just going to call Don Jr. and say that.
Very naive to say.
No, that's not naive.
Trump
People do this all the time. That's
degree.
His company. So he's directly.
Well, he's the president, and he's also a very successful businessman with lots of financial and business interests all over the globe. There's no way to untangle that because the government has tons of regulatory power that does impact his businesses. There's just no way to get around that. The American people were fully aware of that when they put Donald Trump in the Oval Office for a second time. I think they're aware that his businesses may benefit from or be harmed by or be affected by government policy. That's the reality of having a businessman be in charge. But with crypto specifically, yes, it's anonymous. They can't prove exactly who's coming in, so that makes direct influence less important. And I, frankly, am glad to have someone in the White House who understands and thinks crypto is good and important and wants to regulate crypto in an industry-affirming way rather than the Biden team would have strangled it in the crib for lack of understanding of it and just a knee-jerk desire to regulate and destroy new technologies. So I'd rather have someone who knows, who kind of understands it, who's in the crypto game as we move into this important regulatory phase for crypto.
Trump's family profits from every single trade of crypto, and I think that he's making huge policy decisions on the same crypto that he's regulating, and so obviously he's going to do it in his favor as a businessman. You're not telling me that he's that neutral and by the book that he's going to avoid making policies that directly affect him. Exactly. So when he gets into meme coin, it seems intentional. He's like, oh, we got into this by desperation. No one would loan us money. I doubt that. I think they got into crypto because they saw it advantageous, and they thought that if Trump wins, that this would be a good moment for them to not only regulate this new currency in a form that benefits them, but also profit tremendously after he leaves office, just like they will with this personal private plane from Qatar.
Was the House Speaker and was the person most directly in charge of crafting legislation around tech issues. She represents Silicon Valley. Her husband owns stock in Facebook. I mean, this is a much more direct and obvious potential corruption problem. They'll thwart every time. I would be fine. I support.
So corruption is good if you do it in front of our face, is what you're arguing. Corruption is good if we can see you doing it plain as day. That's good corruption. And Nancy Pelosi is bad corruption.
I'm saying there's all sorts of behind the scenes. I would also prefer no corruption. And I support, as do most of the American people, Stock Act or the Pelosi Act or whatever they're calling it these days to prevent stock trading among people in Congress. I support that. That was something that was blocked by Republicans and Democrats, by Nancy Pelosi. I think that would be a good idea. I think that is where more obvious corruption, more obvious that it is corruption. It's more discreet and secret, and that's the problem. With Trump, everything is, you see the transactions, and you're allowed to decide whether this is what you want for our country, and the American people said yes.
But he's not a dictator. We don't live in that type of government. So if there's one rule for Congress and people that are employees in that arena, there should be the same rule for Congress. The rule for Congress is do whatever you want. If they're pitching that this is a great job and a rule for the future of Congress for them not to be trading things that they're actually making rules on, that's great. But that should also apply to our president. I think we should start from the top down, and our top office should abide by the same rules as Congress. And so if you're going to run for president, take a break from your businesses. I know he says Trump Jr. is running it, but it seems real specific with the Trump meme coin that he's making all this money, and 80% of Trump coin is controlled by Trump-affiliated entities.
The business, but it's just the business is impacted because they have. There's just no way. On some level, do you know what I'm saying? There's no way to disentangle.
He's peddling all these coins. He's like marketing for his own business. It's almost like being on a reality show and constantly bringing up your brand that has nothing to do with like the actual content of the show. That's what he's doing. He's making policies and doing work, but also talking about meme coin and hosting dinners and making people pay tons of money to be around him in his crypto conversations. That is directly benefiting from
his real financial asset is exactly what you just said, is his name and the brand. And there's no way to that brand grows in worth. It's worth more. It has more financial power because he's president, and it's just the reality of the situation.
He's just peddling something new every week. First it's Nikes, then it's or whatever his sneakers, then then it's a coin. Every time it's like the president and scammer. Like it's just constant something new that he's trying to sell to the American people and trying to make money from, and nobody knows where it's coming from, or accepting jets. And like we should be able to ask questions. That doesn't mean that we don't respect the office of presidency. It means that we are critical and asking questions about what's going on.
And I don't begrudge the president. I don't care if the president profits or makes money. I care if the president or the Congress or whoever it is crafts legislation and rules and policies that negatively impact businesses that are not owned by him. I care if they do that for whatever reason. I certainly would care if they do it deliberately. I'm not seeing any evidence of that yet. If some commodities that Trump is not invested in get some really punishing regulation, I mean, this is why I oppose the tariffs. I don't want one man largely saying that this industry gets or this country gets tariffs at 50%. Oh, but then this industry, cars or whatever, like, oh, well, we're going to relax it for these industries. Well, then it's going to be nakedly corrupt because it's then whoever visits the White House and talks to you. Here's why my industry is really important, though. We can't do the tariffs for me. Oh, okay. Well, not for you, but then it'll be for you. Yes, I'm totally against that, which is why I support taking the tariff power away from the president, or actually just having the tariff power the way it was supposed to be designed, which is for Congress. The court just ruled that this happened last week, that the law does not give this power to the president. The emergency power doesn't apply here. So that is an example of corruption I agree is a problem for the executive office. This kind of stuff, it's just
I'm looking forward to the tell-all book. I mean, I hope Jake Tapper is writing right now about all the stuff that may happen in the next 4 or 5 years.
I fully trust our mainstream media to be on every aspect of Trump corruption or Trump-related not good stuff. The media has proven itself very capable. Publishers will greenlight a gazillion books on this subject for every one in-depth examination of Biden corruption or the fact that the president was not with it for the last however many months or years of his presidency. Next up, the family of suspected Boulder, Colorado attacker Mohammed Solomon. They've been taken into custody and they could be deported immediately. Stay tuned.